Hello, my name's Loretta, and I'm 77 years old. That's right, 77, and I'm a fan of the booth. Sinista1, Keith Hayes. That's right, my favorite. He's like a adorable Sammy Davis Jr., but for the new age kids. And everybody that loves sports, because I love all that New England sports. The Boston Celtics, the New England Patriots. I don't even give a damn about the Jets or the Giants.
If you guys actually enjoy treating your customers like a piece of shit, because that's how I felt when I went to the Alamo Draft House. Okay? You know what? I didn't know that I wasn't supposed to text in your little crappy-ass theater. It was too f***ing dark in that place for me to find my seat, alright? I was using my phone as a flashlight to get to my f***ing seat. So excuse me for using my phone in USA, United States of America, where you are free to text in a theater. I was not aware that I couldn't text in your theater, all right? I've texted in all the other theaters in Austin, and no one ever gave a fuck about what I was doing with my fucking phone, all right? And it was on silent. It wasn't on loud. It wasn't bothering anybody. You guys obviously were being assholes to me. And I'm sure that's what you do, you know, to rip people off. You take my money, and then you throw me out. You know, I will never be coming back to your Alamo Draft House or whatever. I'd rather go to a regular theater where people are actually polite. And, you know, I'm going to tell everyone about how you are. And I'm pretty sure you guys are being on purpose. So thanks for making me feel like a customer. Thanks for taking my money.
Dead ass. Serious, I would hate me too. Look at me. Think he the shit. This nigga don't even increase his Air Forces. What the f***? Shut the fuck up, you lying.
If we're honest, who wants to roll less travel? It's harder to teach us. Who wants the difficult route?
If you support safety in our schools, you will support the National Guard to come in here and keep our students safe.
People say, these students have changed. These students are lazy.
Your children aren't learning disability, they lazy.
Get students engaged so they don't want to skip class, so they want to be in their classrooms.
There are teachers in this profession who should not be teachers. There are teachers in this profession who don't care about children.
These students don't want to learn. No, the adults have changed. See, the parents don't have the back of the teachers.
He ain't slow. He ain't got no learning problem. His parents didn't give him a foundation.
Young people, as a nation, we sorely need the depth and breadth of your intelligence, character, and also your clarity.
I think about, in particular, the history of people that look like me who are getting cheated.
So if you're asking me right now as an educator, what's wrong with these kids? There's nothing wrong with them.
Teachers are the most important people in the world.
They're whimpering in fear, and we're sitting here scared of them.
Because if they get it right, they'll change the world because they're in charge of the most important resource, and that's our children.
You see that cop out? You see that cop out?
Van Buren Records.
Van Buren's a brotherhood. Started in high school and grew up to be something special. Not too many's gotten this type of opportunity. Haiti's where we're from. Geno's is where we come together. Where we break bread. Van Buren's here to change a lot of the narrative. Trying to change the culture. Show the world what Brockton's really made of.
Probably be doing too much, yeah. Probably be doing too much, Probably be doing too much, yeah. Probably be doing too much, Probably be doing too much, yeah. Probably be doing too much, Probably be doing too much, yeah.
Brockton, New Balance, Snipes.
Oscar Mike Radio is a proud podcast partner of Reach Across America Radio, heard every Thursday at 11 a.m. and Sunday at 8 a.m. Eastern. They're also big supporters of the nonprofit I Got Your Six, Two Lives at Once. And with every wreath you sponsor through Oscar Mike Radio, $5 goes back to this great organization dedicated to making a difference in the lives of veterans, law enforcement, firefighters, and first responders battling PTSD. Two Lives at Once pairs these brave men and women together with dogs rescued from kill shelters. In this way, two lives are saved at the same time by saving each other. Donate now. Go to reachacrossamerica.org/Oscar Mike Radio to help. That's reachacrossamerica.org/Oscar Mike Radio.
We are Puerto Ricans, and we are Americans, but Donald Trump doesn't see us that way. We remember what he did to us after Hurricane Maria. We were dying by the thousands while he threw paper towels at us like we were a joke, because he thinks we are garbage.
I don't know if you guys know this, but there's literally a floating island of garbage in the middle of the ocean right now. Yeah, I think it's called Puerto Rico.
We are not your punchline. We know who we are. We are proud Americans, proud Puerto Ricans. And we see who you are. You are racist. You are a liar. You are the one that is garbage. And we know where real garbage belongs. In the trash.
You know your brother voted for Trump. Twice, I think. You know that, right?
Yeah, I knew that. But really, what does it even matter now? Trump didn't break anything that we couldn't still fix, so... It's the hate, though. Dad, honest to God, it's the hate that's gonna kill us. People who don't even know each other hate each other, despise each other. And I don't think that a man who drives that kind of anger, I don't think that he deserves to be president.
I agree. And that's what we got to fix. I mean, that's what we got to, get past.
On Tuesday, November 5th, vote for Harris Walz. It's too important to stay at home.
This is Viana Marie, and you're watching The Booth, a Sinista1 production on Hoobazoo.com.
It's caught in the crossfire.
What does Marcellus Wallace look like? What? What country you from? What? What ain't no country I ever heard of? They speak English and what? What? English, motherfucker! Do you speak it? Yes. Then you know what I'm saying. Yes. Describe what Marcellus Wallace looks like. What? Say what again? Say what again? I dare you. I double dare you, motherfucker. Say what one more goddamn time. He's black. Go on. He's bald. Does he look like a bitch? What? Does he look like a bitch? No! Then why you try to fuck him like a bitch, Brett? I didn't. Yes, you did. Yes, you did, Brett. You tried to fuck him. And Marcellus Wallace don't like to be fucked by anybody except Mrs. Wallace. You read the Bible, Brett? Yes. Well, there's this passage I got memorized. Sort of fits this occasion. Ezekiel 25:17. The path of the righteous man is beset on all sides by the iniquities of the selfish and the tyranny of evil men. Blessed is he who in the name of charity and goodwill shepherds the weak through the valley of darkness, for he is truly his brother's keeper and the finder of lost children. And I will strike down upon thee with great vengeance and furious anger those who attempt to poison and destroy my brothers. And you will know my name is the Lord when I lay my vengeance upon thee.
Can you dig it? Can you dig it?
Yeah.
Can you dig it?
Like some other action heroes in it. Yeah.
This is destiny. This is madness. This is the Booth.
Step into the twisted mind of my literature, designed to get into the depths of your mind, administer sickness surrounds and mimic the likes of snuff cinema. What you must get into, you're nothing but pups. Remember you Homer and Happy Simpson, son. Nothing Ithaca. Stalkers like the northern half of Korea's peninsula. ESP your island like the Booth, something sinister. ESP your island like the Booth, something sinister. ESP your island like the Booth, something sinister.
Oh, there he is. There he is. Okay, there he is. Hey guys, we're live here in the booth. I know it's 10 minutes early. It's 6:51. That's my bad. I always figure out the countdown and what's before we going live, all the intros and things like that, and the ads and stuff. And I had it at 14:03, but I think I started it early. So we're gonna start the show early because hey, election night, and you know what? Things happen for a reason. Starting 10 minutes early on election night is a big deal anyway, as far as I'm concerned. Big thanks to all my supporters from last week. Also, my guest, Barbara Schwartz, came on the show. Monkey Wrench Wellness. She asked me to pass along a fellow hello to her fellow Jewish lawyers that she's seen on this show before. She came on here to talk about yoga. She does this yoga program for veterans and first responders. It's a free program. It's good stuff. Barbara Schwartz is her name. She's doing a couple of great events to help these veterans and first responders out. And yeah, she came on the show last week, so I got to really thank her for coming on the show. Also, let's talk about my sponsors real quick. MDB Electronics, Michael Douglas Barreto. If you got a controller that needs to be fixed, get it back out to him. 48 hours, you're back to gaming. Deanna Marie's music is available everywhere. 494,000 streams. Let's pump those up. Tactical Target Systems. That's where I get my zombie life-size targets to take to the range. And then I Love Boston Sports for those sports shirts. And then Kimberly Ann Empowerment Photography. Deanna Marie, as you can see there, for women who never thought they could take boudoir photos, bedroom photos. This is the lady to reach out to, Kimberly Empowerment Photography. And Underwatch Protective Services, type of mobile patrol, foot patrol, armed guards, unarmed guards, event security, and private security. Reach out to Underwatch Protective Services. And before we get into the news booth today, I'm going to get my guys that they're here with me today on the show. I've got R Squared. They got Ken Diesel on here. It is election night. And, there's been a lot of things that we've done on this show. We were on this show January 5th, and the show was actually called The Calm Before the Storm, is what that episode was called. And crazy enough, it ended up being just a storm the next day. A lot of us remember what happened on January 6th. So I'm going to let my man up in the upper left-hand corner, I'm going to let Rob introduce himself.
Hey, good night, everybody. This is going to be a long night, not necessarily on the booth, but for those of you watching the returns, just keep something in mind. Or actually, keep two things in mind, please. Number one, it's going to be a few days. So stop reading the garbage. Don't post the garbage. Don't fall for the garbage. Be patient. Wait for the credible sources. We will find out soon enough. And the second thing is we have been spoiled in this country because we demand instant results. And for decades, and we've gotten instant results. But you know what? The rest of the world doesn't. And we need to do this right. And we need to start doing a better job with how we monitor elections and collect votes and give everybody a chance to vote and do all that. So let's start accepting that it's going to take a few days and just know that that's the way it is.
Ken, introduce yourself and give your thoughts.
Hi, it's Kenneth Diesenhof, your resident cynic here. Like my colleague in the left-hand corner, we are both lawyers and we're both poli-sci majors in college. And I can say this as both a poli-sci major and history major. Look, believe it or not, most elections prior to the 1940s, we didn't have results back for several months. That's because we didn't have the technology to count the votes that quickly and transmit the result. In the 1940s, with the introduction of radio, these results came in very quickly. And also, if I may say something, we're technically not going to have the results till January because that's when the Electoral College meets and actually votes. Because remember, we're a republic, not a straight democracy. We vote for electors, who then vote for president. So put your freaking iPad or your droid down, read a freaking book, pour yourself a cup of tea, or if you're like us, you're going to pour yourself something a little stronger. That's fine. And chill the bleep out. Nothing is going to end between now and tomorrow.
Enjoy some good football. That's what I do.
Well, I'm not so sure it's good. Definitely enjoy some football, but I'm not so sure this year has been terribly good for anybody. Except for the fact that Dallas is crashing and burning early, and I'm very happy about that. Hate me all you want.
Man, oh man, oh man. And hey, it's your boy Sinista1 here. I got to thank everybody in the chat. Billy Atwood, first one in the chat every week. Thank you for tuning in the show. Denise, thank you for tuning in the show. Thank you everybody for supporting the show. It's going to be a good show tonight. Won't even have any numbers until later tonight, so don't expect us to start giving numbers. Most polls across the country open until 8 o'clock anyway. So we want to make sure we get that out there. And again, like I said, if you look at the show, yes, we did start early. It's actually 6:56, and there's some funny stuff we're going to talk about here. I was talking with R Squared, and this wasn't on the topics for the list tonight, but it's just something funny to talk about since we got a little bit of extra time. We're talking about Halloween, and as we were in our chat waiting for Ken as usual, I was munching on the Snickers.
I was here. No, for the record, I was here before you signed on early.
Yes, I know. And that, see the lawyer kick right in. We're on early, and Ken was on early. So, I was talking about candy. I was eating some Halloween candy because I didn't have anybody come to my house this year. Second year in a row, nobody came to my house, and Oscar was saying he was saying the same thing. Ken, you have anybody come to your house this year?
No. Last couple of years, no one's come to my house. I've stopped even getting candies. I end up eating it all and getting fat.
It's weird because I feel like me and R Squared were talking. We feel like that a lot of these social events that have now set up across the country now on Halloween, these trunk or treats. You have these restaurants who do these things. Schools are doing these things. So I feel like it's trick or treating is becoming this mark where it only happens in like enclosed neighborhoods, cul-de-sacs, gated communities, and things of that sort.
Exactly.
And just wanted to see what your opinion was on that. I know R Squared, he felt kind of the same way.
Yeah, I agree. I know, for example, in Melrose, the city I live in, what they've done now is all the stores on Main Street, they're saying the kids down there to trick or treat there at the stores. They hang these little very nice signs, and the stores give them out treats and usually a tchotchke for the adults. I have not seen any trick or treaters walking around my neighborhood on Halloween. I know I talked to my brother about this. The city of Avon actually passed an ordinance a number of years ago that forbid it. You can't do it in Avon. It's illegal. Yes. And that was a safety concern both for child snatching and people getting hit on the road, especially late at night.
Damn.
I think
R Squared.
Stupid, but what can I say?
No, R Squared said the same thing. He said it's kind of become this safety issue because you've got a lot of nut jobs out there, and I agree. I kind of agree with R Squared on that one because he's right. When you start seeing all these horror stories on social media the day after Halloween, and it turns into, well, where was the parent? And things of that sort. So maybe we are witnessing the end of an era of trick or treating. This could be it. It could be just something reserved for gated communities, and we'll see. We'll see what happens here. Let's get into the news booth before we get in, because there's a lot of stuff we'll be breaking down and talking about. Election goes on. So in the news booth here in Brockton, a Brockton woman was struck by a bat bus in Colonel Bell Drive. And I got to say something, this one hits kind of home because good friends of mine, Mike and Belinda Bell, it was actually Belinda's aunt who was hit by this bus, Colonel Bell Drive. She is alive, undergone some surgery for her leg. And my prayers go out to Belinda and Mike and their family. Also in the news booth, a second oil refinery down in Houston has decided that it's going to close. This is one of these industries that they really, the EPA is real tough on these businesses. And these oil refineries pretty much all popped up in the 70s, 70s, early 80s. And a lot of these oil refineries aren't really up to date. And because they're so old, they were grandfathered for some of the EPA rules and things of that sort. But guess what happens when you start to try to make upgrades and bring yourself up to par with today's EPA standards? Lots of times you lose the grandfather rule. We see this quite a bit with buildings being renovated, houses being renovated. You lose that grandfather rule. I believe Ken's office on Main Street, that fell under that situation, didn't it? Where it was
well, my old one, yeah, the one at 142 Main Street. It actually had two grandfather regulations. One was the age of the building, and two was historically significant. So you couldn't get, you could do any structural changes to it without going through a humongous permitting process. The only reason they were able to, well, that's why I had to move out, because they sold the building. The only reason they were able even to get the permits approved for structural changes was the roof was collapsing. So that's how they got the permits to. What fun!
It is very interesting because with the demise of these oil refineries, any new oil refineries that get built will have to fall under these restrictions that are out there, stringent restrictions. I know that Trump had ran this policy on he's going to roll this back and roll that back if he gets in. He had already done that when he was in. He had already changed the waterways and utilized the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers to manipulate waterways so businesses could be able to dump into waterways. That was one of the things we talked about on this show. Your thoughts on the oil refineries closing up across the country, Squid?
Yeah, I mean, that's just a product of the changing times, right? Hopefully we're using less oil. Hopefully maybe there's a cleaner way to produce it. But, I don't know that there's a lot of story here. I think this is the natural evolution of the industry.
Yeah, so this one particular plant, 276,000 barrels a day they produced. And you know what? I hate to say this, but as much as people talk crap in Trump's narrative on electric vehicles, I hate to say this, but I know that, when I drove down the road, it used to be you had to actually look for a Tesla. You actually had to say, oh my God, there's a Tesla. Now, I would say here in Massachusetts, I'd say 2 to maybe 3 in 5 cars now in Massachusetts that you see are EVs. It is a growing brand, so people don't believe this narrative that they're not selling and they're not buying, because they are. There's a market and people are buying them. Just don't realize that they're out there, and that's why oil prices are coming down. Also,
I think that's a
go ahead.
Bit of oversimplification. First of all, while electric vehicles run electricity, you still got to produce electricity using fossil fuels. So it's the net carbon footprint doesn't change. Number two, the reason we haven't invested in oil refineries is because they're expensive to build. And we've lost our manufacturing base, and people are going to go, unfortunately, corporations go to it's a race to the bottom. But yet we are a net exporter of oil. We are producing more oil than we have any time in our history. But unfortunately, no one wants to build these refineries. And I mean no one, I'm not talking about the United States, anywhere in the world, because the margins for producing oil are very slim. And they are very labor intensive still. And they take a lot of time and they take a lot to maintain. I mean, the operational costs sometimes exceeds the money you make on a refined product. And that's just a problem we can solve another day.
Right. Hey Ken, can you just pull your camera down just a little bit? People can't see your mouth when you're perfect. There you go. You're on.
Sorry about that.
There you go. Margaret, thank you for tuning into the show. Thank you for watching us. Also in the entertainment booth to start out, rest in peace, Big Sid of Probe Magazine here in Boston. He passed away this past weekend, so rest in peace to Big Sid. Also, rest in peace to a musical legend, 91 years old. Rest in peace to Quincy Jones, just a musical legend, a guy who's responsible for two people's megastar career. He's responsible for Michael Jackson's solo career, and a lot of people don't know this. He is responsible for Will Smith, the megastar. When they were doing this show, The Fresh Prince of Bel-Air, he decided, I want to go with a complete unknown person, and he had his eye on Will Smith. Everybody said, you're crazy, this kid's never acted before, he's just a rapper, blah, blah, blah. But Quincy Jones felt that there was something in Will Smith that an actor didn't have. Guess what? By golly, he was right. Fresh Prince of Bel-Air was one of the biggest black sitcoms of all time. Will Smith became one of the biggest superstars. Even when he got the call from Quincy Jones, he didn't believe it. Like, I never acted before. What does this guy want with me? Quincy Jones Also, for those who don't remember, Quincy Jones was married to Peggy Lipton of the Mod Squad, and at that time, that was a big deal because that was an interracial relationship, and their daughter was on The Office, and Quincy Jones is a legend, a musical legend, from jazz to everything. Your thoughts, guys, on the passing of Quincy Jones, real quick?
It's a sad day. He did so many things other than music. He recruited so many stars. This phrase is used all the time, but I think this case it applies. We are probably never going to see someone like that ever again, at least in our lifetimes.
Well, it's a different values. Quincy Jones comes from a value base that's no longer with. I hate to say, you guys agree? I feel like that work ethic and values is kind of gone in this. I don't know if you agree with that.
No, I think I do. I mean, obviously, he made it big in a different era. He's been relevant for a number of years. He's absolutely a legend. At 91, all you could say it was a life extremely well lived. I mean,
Amen to
there's
that.
really not more to say.
Yeah, good stuff. Again, rest in peace, Quincy Jones. In the sports booth, thank you, Maddie C. You're going to be running in the Boston Marathon half this weekend, so good luck to him. Also in the new sports booth, Patriots lost to the Titans. 2017, they're 2-6. It's another tough loss. My biggest thing, guys, about this game is I watched this game and I'm pissed at the fact that last week Drake May goes down, gets hit in the head, he goes into concussion protocol, and you would think that he would come out of concussion protocol and they would say, hey, you got to learn how to slide. And I watched this game, and the kid ran the ball for over 50 yards, and once again, he doesn't slide. He doesn't look. Somebody, look, this falls on Gerard Mayo, as far as I'm concerned. You're the head coach. Your franchise quarterback that you drafted is running the ball every game. You need to teach this kid how to slide. I don't care what baseball camp you send him to or Little League. He needs to learn how to slide, or he's gonna get killed. And he dodged a bullet last week. He may not dodge a bullet the week, and that's my big thing coming out of this loss. That's my biggest gripe coming out of this loss. It was a good game. He played his ass off, but hey, this kid needs to slide.
The problem is, go ahead. I'm sorry.
I was just going to say, I'm agreeing that was incredibly reckless. I watched the game. He played, he was brilliant in his play, but he was incredibly reckless, and you can't do that. That's a rookie mistake and bad coaching. The other thing I was going to say is, I said it in live time when it was happening, and I obviously the loss maybe proves it right. I'm wondering what you guys think. Absolutely should have gone for 2.
Ooh, that's a tough one. I'm gonna let Ken go first on that one. That's a tough one.
Well,
at the end of
I'm going to follow
regulation,
that.
you go for 2 on the road. You go for 2.
I'm going to follow that in hindsight's 2020.
That's why
if he had gone
I said it in real time.
I don't know. I mean, if he had gotten it, it would have been a great move. If he hadn't, we would have complained. They should have simply kicked the field goal. I'm sorry, extra point. Excuse me. That being said, I think the problem with today's modern quarterback is they've watched too much of Lamar Jackson and all these other quarterbacks who are basically running backs who can throw. And they're not running backs. They are not built to take the punishment a running back is, or even a wide receiver, or even a tight end. And they got to bring back the fact that their job is to get the ball to somebody else on their team as quickly and efficiently as possible. If they have to keep it, protect their body by learning either to go out of bounds or learn how to slide.
Yeah, he's got to learn how to slide, and like I said, that's going to fall on Gerard Mayo. That's going to fall on the quarterback coach. Also, the quarterback coach is also the guy that should have, and this is something that I hate to say this, but this should be quarterback 101 when you get into the NFL. I understand the guys can run all over the place in college because the safeties are backed up, and we see it all the time in college with quarterbacks running all over the place, but college is a different game. When these quarterbacks come into the NFL, sliding should be taught 101, first day of training camp. It should be part of the routine. It's abysmal to see this kid. Every time he ran that ball and put his head down, I'm like, oh, it's just an accident waiting to be happen. And I pray we don't see anything happen. How'd the Giants do this weekend? I didn't get to hear.
Actually, they lost, but they played a really good game against a very good Washington team. They held Daniels to some pretty low numbers, and they lost it late. There was a late score that wound up being the winning score for Washington. So yeah, it was a very disappointing loss. You got to split with your rivals, if not take two. So that was unfortunate. The Giants are 0-2, but look, this is a terrible year for the Giants. The fact that they kept it close and kept Daniels' numbers down, I mean, that's a step forward.
To be honest, it's a horrible year for a lot of teams. We've got more than a handful of teams with only 2 wins. We've got teams this year that may make the playoffs below the 500 mark right now. We're headed into week 9. We're already starting playoff talk. As of this weekend, we'll be starting, the positionings and things of that sort. This past weekend, during the games, we were able to watch Green Bay, Detroit Lions. I had my eye on that game. I thought that game was going to be a lot closer, but Detroit came in there, and I hate this. I know we picked our teams this year, and I think I'm really, really sticking with Detroit overall, and I might be changing Detroit to become Super Bowl champions this year. They played, you go into Green Bay, it's raining, it's windy, and you still kick their butts, and you lose your top defensive player to being ejected. I felt like Detroit is really the team to beat this year as far as the NFC goes.
Okay, let me just say this. I love Detroit. I love their fans. I wish them the best. But Detroit is like the Boston Red Sox of the 80s and 90s. They enjoy breaking everyone's heart. They just do it. I mean, I've never seen them as, this good this late in the season. And if I'm wrong and they make a deep playoff run, even a Super Bowl run, God bless them. God bless their fans. You have my full support. But they're going to do something to screw up and crush their fans' hope. They do it every year. And I am saying this as someone who's got some very good friends who are Detroit fans, long-suffering, and they deserve it. But they are just going to do something to screw it up. I'm just waiting for it.
Their head coach owes a lot. The head coach has come in there and they said it. He's changed the culture there. We've talked about it on this show many years. I've always felt like when you talk about teams that were run just for a tax write-off, I felt like Detroit Lions was one of those teams that was just a tax write-off. But it looks like that, they might be for real. I'm gonna wait and see what happens on Thanksgiving Day. Because for me, that's a big day for them. And I think they're really going to be doing some damage this year. And your thoughts on that, Squid?
No, I agree. I think Detroit's for real. I think they're great on both sides of the ball. I think considering that there's a little bit more parity, San Francisco's not running away with it where some people thought they might. Minnesota's not running away with it. They're hot and cold. Tampa looks good at times, but not all the time. Philly is playing hot and cold. I mean, who else is going to step up? So if you're going to bet on it, if you're going to look for a horse to ride, they're as good as any.
Who you like in the AFC? Who's your team to watch right now? It's a weird toss up right now. It's hard.
Yeah, I mean, look, I think the AFC is very competitive. They can beat each other. But look, the Chiefs are undefeated halfway through the season, so you've got to look at the Chiefs. I think that they've got some competition. It looks like the Chargers are getting their game back. They started off okay, then they hit a slump. Now they're figuring it out. First-year coach Harbaugh, so maybe they'll be a factor. I'm not convinced of that. Buffalo is not a factor. They're worse than they were the last couple of years, so they're going to win the division because it stinks. But they're, they've got no competition. But I just don't. I see them choking in the playoffs like they always do. Baltimore, maybe. I'd say if anybody could give a run to the Chiefs. I'm just trying to see who could give them a run for it, Ken. I'm not saying they're a Super Bowl team.
Oh, okay.
But it's
okay.
Who could
then I withdraw my previous comments.
Yeah, I mean, who's gonna do it, right? I mean, down south, you don't really have a strong contender. Houston's not good enough. So I don't know. I mean, I guess it's the Chiefs until somebody shows they can beat them.
Right. Ken?
Yeah, I mean, unfortunately, the only body that's been showing any consistency this year in the W column is the Chiefs, and I can't stand them. So I'm saying that I'm doing it, holding my nose. I'm disappointed at Buffalo. I really thought Buffalo was going to come out strong this year. I'm disappointed at the Jets because I thought the Jets finally would get their head out of their what, and they didn't do that. And I hate the Jets. My proverbial favorite is always, sad sack story is always Miami because I feel sorry for Miami. I just hope to God they get their, they haven't been able to do squat. The AFC North, which is usually a powerhouse, great teams, all look like they've forgotten how to play football. Someone needs to send them to remedial camp. Denver is a walking disaster area. They're literally the Walking Dead. One of your favorite shows, Sinista1.
Yeah, no, I mean those are
Who
great
else is out there?
observations. I would add one thing on the Jets. You said the Jets. I agree with you. They're disappointing, although the defense shows some promise. But I would just say this. I thought it was a mistake bringing in Aaron Rodgers, and now I'm going to say this: Aaron Rodgers playing football is like Joe Biden walking onto a stage.
That's where I was headed. I feel like the problem with the Jets is exactly what Bill Belichick said, and Bill Belichick pulled no punches, and he blamed the GM and the ownership for this disaster. Robert Saleh did not deserve to be fired at week 5 when you were still a 500 team. That was all Aaron Rodgers pulling the strings, and I hate this isn't new. For those who we've seen this with Aaron Rodgers before, and the fact that he got Robert Saleh fired is just it's horrible. It's horrible. And then they go and they get Devontae Adams, on his wishes, and they still aren't getting it done. So I feel bad for Robert Saleh. I'm not sure if the interim coach is going to be the answer, but obviously whoever goes there as a coach. You got the answer to that crappy ass ownership, and you also heard that the ownership wasn't happy with the firemen, to the point where they told the stadium to not put him up on the screen as much because they're happy with him being vocal. Are you serious? This is crazy. This is crazy stuff. So. We'll see. But the Patriots are now 2-6. They've got one more game before the bye week. Then that's
knowing them, they'll probably blow the bye week.
Also in the sports booth last week, the Dodgers took home the World Series. It was a no-brainer. I had picked the Dodgers to win. That team was just so stacked. But here's the thing, people. We here in New England, we've won 6 Super Bowl championships. We've had a ton of World Series championships over the stretch, and this whole thing, when the Red Sox won, they got out of control, and unfortunately, a young girl got shot in the eye by officers who were not trained to use the beanbag gun properly, and it cost the city of Boston a ton of money. But that one girl's death let Boston know that we need to behave we need to act with class. In other cities and states, it drives me crazy that you win a championship and you think it's okay to burn your city down and vandalize cars because you win. Look, people, you're one of these people. This is the most stupidest thing out there. Burning up your city, vandalizing cars, assaulting people, sexually assaulting people after a team wins a World Series is absolute no excuse. I would love to see Ken trying to defend some of these.
Or I've had to do it before.
Really?
You got to remember, I was a criminal defense attorney in 2004.
Oh, that's right. That's right.
And I've been a criminal defense attorney for every one of the Patriots Super Bowl wins. And I've actually had to go down to Framingham because they need it. There have been times. Now, I'll be very clear about what I'm about to say. The events I'm talking about did not occur in Gillette Stadium. But for those of you who don't know, a lot of people like to tailgate outside of Gillette Stadium.
Right.
In these huge parking lots. Now, Sinista1, I know you've been down there a lot, maybe even tailgated with some friends of the show.
Fear of tailgating.
This may come as a shock to you. There's a lot of alcohol consumed at those tailgate parties.
What?
I know. Shocking. And unfortunately, despite the best efforts of the Patriot Organization and the state police and the local authorities who try to patrol that area, people on alcohol do stupid shit. Pardon my French. A lot of it involves violence. Sometimes it's stunt work. Sometimes people do impromptu drag races with mini scooters and hit other people, and that causes fights. And I've had to defend these people. Some people like to start bonfires. Now, you may not know this, but it's illegal to start a bonfire in that area. You can grill with an approved grill, but you can't start an open fire like a campfire. That's illegal.
Right.
If I may digress with a quick war story about 6 or 7 years ago. It was 2019. It's 5 years ago. There was a group of people who decided, for reasons which I still cannot understand, to start a bonfire and then strip off their clothes in December and jump through the bonfire.
Oh, no.
Now, the way the game worked is you would run and get to a close to bonfire, then jump through, and they would back off. They would back off the position which you had to jump through the bonfire. One of these Harvard PhD candidates decided that wasn't nearly as much fun as jumping in with a whole bottle of Jack Daniels while he's chugging the Jack Daniels and jumping into the fire. Unfortunately, because his, how shall I say, spatial relations was worse than even mine. He was clearly intoxicated. This doesn't surprise you. The bottle of Jack Daniels slipped out of his hands onto the fire. So this caused a rather what they call a flame out, which ended up lighting a couple other things on fire.
So let me guess, his Jack and his Daniels got a little burnt?
Very funny. Anyway, while these junior geniuses are trying to put out the fire, they kick the embers onto another group of people standing near and start a lot of fire on their thing. These people get pissed off, think they did it on purpose, start a Pier 6 brawl. So you can imagine about 20 people involved in a Pier 6 brawl with half the people on fire.
Billy Atwood in the chat says toasted nuts.
Pretty much. How no one died or got worse than second-degree burns is a testament that God is a Patriots fan, and he does love them.
Oh, man, oh, man, oh, man. Yeah, I mean, that's the whole reason why they have a jail cell in Foxborough. Crazy
they do.
Crazy
no,
stuff.
They do have a Gillette Stadium. I've seen it. I got a tour of it.
So it's good
from the
stuff,
outside.
Dog. Yeah, so again, Los Angeles Dodgers fans, stop it. Just ridiculous. Let's get into the legal booth. Now, I talked about this topic way back, about 5 years ago, because I had a friend who lives in Baltimore, Maryland, and she would hit me up and had told me, hey, I just got a check in the mail for a blah, blah, blah. Because down in Baltimore, Maryland, they had started a class action lawsuit in regards to overdraft fees. You guys know about overdraft fees. You have a checking account. Your bank gets overdrawn by like $1 because you didn't realize that something that you had programmed to come out, you forget, and guess what happens? The check bounces. They whack you with a $25 overdraft fee. But guess what happens then? Now, the rest of the checks that are coming in because that $25 was added that you didn't know about, now more checks come in. Those checks bounce, and now it's $25 for each check. Guess what's happening now? Now they have ruled in the court of law, and I got to ask these guys, I got to figure out why this has been deemed illegal when this is something that has been allowed and has been going on for so many years. I can't wrap my head around it, why now all of a sudden all of these banks, Northeastern Savings Bank has now been added to this. Bank of America has been now added to this. They're dropping like flies, and some of these banks are now having to pay back ATM fees that they're saying was over extreme in price. So like, you know, when you go to a place that's considered convenient and it's a $5 ATM fee, The courts have now said they've kind of overset these limits for overdrafts and ATM fees, and now they've got these class actions that people are going to be getting money back. I'm going to start off. I see R squared on his head first, and I'm going to let Ken, because I think Ken might go full deep.
Oh, yeah.
Your thoughts, R squared, on that?
Oh, no, I mean, look, it's a market thing, right? Consumers are going to use banks that, I mean, to the extent that people even bother to check, I mean, who knows? But, people look mostly interested in the interest rate that they're going to get. But at the same time, you might choose it based on that. But for example, my bank refunds all ATM fees. So I can go to any ATM fee and I don't care what it is, because once the bank processes my withdrawal, I'm going to get reimbursed the fee. So
Nice.
That's okay. And I think that might be something that banks have to start looking at, because otherwise it becomes a race to the bottom, so to speak, as far as who can out fleece their customers and get away with it.
Yeah, because sometimes the ATM fees can put you in an overdraft situation, because some people don't know what the ATM fee is. So you take 3 ATM withdrawals at $3.50, $4.50, or $5 a pop. That's $15 out of your account on top of those withdrawals, and now your account is $15 less than you think it is. And then, like I said, you get into this overdraft lottery where you just keep rolling up the fees and rolling up the fees, and
well, the ATM machine tells you what the fee is. I mean, It's not like you don't know what it is, but
right
at that point, you've already tried to use it.
Well, there's a couple of regulations that people don't realize are out there. Number one, this has a lot to do with usury laws, because what the courts are now saying is these ATM fees are not fees. What they are loans. In other words, to cover the check and the penalty pay back. And what they're saying is when you start rolling up these fees for every check that bounces, you're getting to usurious amounts at over 20%. So it's usury. And that's why they're saying you can't do that anymore. There's another thing. All ATMs are regulated by the Federal Reserve Board. The Federal Reserve Board has always said the ATM fees have to be reasonable. They don't tell you what reasonable is, but they say they've got to be reasonable related to the transaction. What the courts are now saying is these ATM fees are not reasonable, therefore they're in violation of these regulations. That's why they're going to be coming down. But no one's ever said exactly what a reasonable fee is.
Why didn't they just set that from the get-go, the feds? So we don't get into this situation. Because this has been a discussion that we've had for many years.
I'll explain to you very simply. Banks make a ton of money off of ATM fees and bounce check fees. They want you to bounce checks. They make more money off of that.
Well, sometimes I feel like they create that situation. I feel like they purposely create that situation. That's why they set the overdraft fees so high. I feel that way. It's an interesting case legally. Like I said, I just feel like this is something that should have been done a long time ago. Crazy. I mean, so who sets that now? Who's going to set that now? And
well, it's the Federal Reserve, because most transactions are. See, with banking, there's state banking regulations and federal banking regulations. Depending on who you are chartered by, the feds or the state is who governs your bank. However, because ATMs have always been deemed to be on the stream of commerce, they're automatically governed by the Fed, and the Fed has already set out that I don't know what they have a very complicated formula. Basically, it works out to it can't be more than $2 or $3 per transaction. It's a very complicated formula, and I'm not even beginning to try to understand it. I tried to. I am give me some math people. We must have some math people out in the booth line that can help me out with this.
Yeah, if you're out there and you know about this, drop us a line and let us know. But it's a good thing, because there are links out there for these banks, and you got to click the link, and it takes you right to the class action suit. You can fill out and get your monies. I never did business with Northeastern Savings Bank, so I won't be clicking the link and applying. I know I did do some business with Bank of America, so I did click their link to try to get that back. And there's a couple. Somebody said, the other thing is somebody said that you won't see credit unions in this class action? What is the difference that why credit unions and banks are different and exonerated from that?
Okay. Credit unions are not banks. They are credit unions. They have similar banking powers, but they are not credit. They're not banks because they are technically nonprofits. That's why.
Oh, okay.
They are nonprofits. They were set up to serve a specific. Initially, back in the 30s, credit unions were only supposed to be open to a certain class of membership. Like, for example, I believe the MBTA has their credit union, right?
We
You have
did,
your own
yeah.
credit
We
union.
have our employees' credit union, and we do business with that because they give us cheap ass rates that are like half of what the
Now,
banks offer.
the idea was the only people who could open up an account at the MBTA credit union were the employees and generally their immediate family members, your wives and children.
That's still the same. Still the same.
Right? There's a Navy Federal Credit Union, which is for people in the Navy. Rob, I don't know if the Army has a credit union or the DoD has a credit union, but they may not. I don't know.
There used to be a Pentagon credit union, but I don't think it exists anymore.
Okay. Like, for example, when I worked in the Senate, we had the Senate Credit Union. That means all 100 senators and their staff and family could use that. It was right in the Hart Senate office building. I used it all the time.
That's super interesting. So I'm going to keep an eye on this case. We'll see how that goes. Also in the legal booth is we're at 7:30. We're going to get into these election topics and stuff because everybody should be out there voting. But these are the reasons, some of the reasons why you should vote. This past week in Texas, I saw a lot of people there voting for Trump because of this reason, because he's for God and he's for protecting babies. And we're not protecting babies. There was a story this week in the legal booth. A pregnant teenager was sick in Texas. She had become sepsis, and she tried to get treatment, and she wasn't allowed to get treatment because she was pregnant. And because of the abortion ban and things of that sort, she was denied by 3 hospitals, and this young girl ended up dying due to this being sepsis. This is the type of stuff that is a reason why we need to keep abortion and Roe v. Wade. We need to bring that back to being a federal law. I see a lot of people talking about the votes in the election, and they're talking about Trump did the best thing. He put it back to the decisions of the state. And I grew up in the time of when abortion became this big debate. I remember down in Park Street Station, there was an abortion clinic down in downtown Boston. I remember the bomb squad was there because they were threatening to bomb this abortion clinic in Boston. And this was one of the reasons why, is because some of these states that had it, people would travel to Massachusetts, people would travel to these states, and then these things became targets of these terrorist acts. And that was one of the reasons why the Roe v. Wade became this federal thing. So it didn't matter what state you were in. You didn't have to be in fear, or you didn't have to travel to another state to get this done. Ken, you were here during that time. Were you?
Yep.
Were you still practicing? Were you still practicing in the 70s for Roe versus Wade? Were you still just?
No, I didn't become a lawyer until 1992.
92.
So that was before my time.
What were your thoughts on this whole thing with this story? I don't know if you guys had saw this.
Well, yeah, it's been all over the news. It's a little more complicated than that. Not only couldn't she get an abortion, she couldn't get the prenatal care that she needed because they're afraid on Texas law it could be deemed to be an abortion. And that's part of the problem. Yes, because you don't understand. Again, I'm not a person who practices OBGYN. I am merely relaying what people in the profession have told me. That many of the procedures that they prescribe for at-risk pregnancies and other things and treating people who are having problem pregnancies are deemed to be abortion services under the law in Texas, and that way they can't do them, including IVF and certain procedures. It is theorized, although no one has put this to the test, that even giving a person a sonogram could be deemed an abortion-like service, and it can't be done. No one's actually done that, but that's how broad this law in Texas is, and that's why it's so dangerous, because it's under the guise of abortion, which is really affecting prenatal care.
Yeah, this is hello, Dennis. Thank you for joining the show. I think it's it's tough. It's a tough situation, and I'm not happy with it. I actually saw somebody when this topic did come up. There was a woman. She was very vocal about this. She was in the military, and she was saying that the reason why she worries is because in the military you have to follow the laws of the state that you're in. And I guess they were going through IVBF treatments or something. I don't know if you could speak on this and clarify what they were talking about, but I guess where they were before, it was okay. And her husband got transferred to another base in a state where now she can't get her IBF because they have to follow that states. I never knew that was that way in the military. Is that so?
Yeah, I mean, most of the time that's the way it works on these issues, and so people in the military have been sort of rebelling over this issue with abortion rights and leaving it to the states because as they go through their careers and they want to serve, right? They're not looking to get out. They're not doing three and done. They're looking to serve their nation, and as they rotate to different assignments, they could be sent to a place where all of a sudden they can't get necessary care, and so you have men and women in uniform who are concerned about their spouses and concerned about their children who would go with them, who might be reassigned to, the next assignment. And it might be a state that has or will pass one of these extreme abortion bans that not only ban the abortion procedure itself, but all kinds of health care that women need. And they could put themselves in health risk, like this young lady in Texas. And so you have a negative impact on military service. There are people getting out or really being focused on assignments. But I mean, you can't control that. Everybody can't get the same assignment, right? We've got to fill all the bases.
Right.
So,
right.
Somebody has to go to the places that people may not want to go to for whatever reason. It doesn't have to be political. It could be geographic. It could be whatever. But there are more popular and less popular assignments, and they all have to be filled. And there are going to be people who now say, well, I'm going to have to get out because I don't want to risk my family's health. I don't want to risk these legal issues. And so you are seeing that impact in the military.
And there's no option for that family member to stay behind and get those treatments that they have to go.
Yeah, I mean, families don't have to move, right? The service member can go alone and do the tour unaccompanied, but that could be 3 or more years by yourself trying to travel home as often as you can, which is not going to be enough. You don't want to leave your family alone for a matter of years.
Right.
So that is a possibility, but it's not a good one.
Okay. Wow. That's see, I always thought that because the base, even though the base was in that town, the base would have followed its own rules. And when I heard that lady telling the story, I was like, whoa, that's bonkers that you fall under. Your life could be severely affected, just like you said, just by a simple transfer. That is crazy. That is so crazy. In the entertainment booth, well, not in the entertainment booth, but in the Biden bombshells. Real quick here, it's election 2024. It's time to let your voice be heard, people. Polls close within the next. It's 7:39. Polls close at 8 p.m. across the country. If you've been in line since 7 o'clock, you stay in line. Don't let anybody tell you any different. I don't care if you're voting for Trump. I don't care if you're voting for Harris. If you're in that line at 7 o'clock, they can't make you move. They can't make you leave. You're allowed to stay there until the polls close, until you get your vote in. So again, doesn't matter who you're voting for, stay in that line. In some of these last minute stories, the craziness that has been going on, if you guys remember rapper Sexy Red, she was a big Trump supporter. Then just on Friday, she changed her endorsement and says her coochie is more important. She's voting for Kamala Harris. Guess what? The abortion thing has been part of this argument for months. So saying your coochie is important now is, to me, a cop-out. I think it's BS. I'm calling BS on that. And here's the thing, Sexy Red. I know you're a black rapper, but you know what? The Black Caucus has decided we're not going to accept this trade. We're going to keep rapper Christina Valentine as part of the black community at this time. So, again, Sexy Red, these endorsements, me and R Squared, we were talking about it. These celebrity endorsements, Dr. Phil was crying before we came on the air. He was actually on Piers Morgan's show this week, and today he changed his endorsement because of all the blowback he's getting from being at that debacle of a rally. And just real quick, I don't want to really beat a dead horse. Just real quick, you guys' opinions on this rally in MSG. Disgusted. And that's all I got to say.
What do you expect? I mean, here's my point. It was disgusting. It was racist. It was everything you're saying. But where the heck have you people been for the last 8 years? This is who this man is. Why is everybody surprised? This is the man.
I felt like you couldn't get any lower, and that was lower.
I don't think it was. It was the same. I mean, this is the same thing who called the Proud Boys beautiful people and had legitimate arguments. I mean, come on, people, wake up and smell the coffee. You know, there's nothing new.
I mean, this is the problem. This is the problem with our voting system, right? That the campaign goes on for way too long, and people have voted while this is still happening. And in the last, maybe 1 week, maybe 2 weeks, after a significant number of votes have been cast, both Kamala Harris and Donald Trump start giving what we call their closing arguments the last week or two of the campaign. She started doing a little bit better. She started gaining in some areas that she needed to gain in, and Trump started losing. And it's not because of anything other than their own voices. She was doing the things, I mean, maybe too little, too late, but she was doing things that she needed to do to appeal to the American people. A lot of, effective campaign stops where she was speaking and she was speaking to people about their issues. Where Trump was holding these rallies, he was not trying to appeal to people. He was not talking about issues. You're talking about a rally that went on for over 3 hours without one single issue discussion. It was all BS. It was all the grievances. It was all the false attacks. It was all the racism, the misogyny, giving the microphone a blowjob. I mean, you're talking about the most disgusting things of all time. And as Ken says, this isn't new. We've known this for 8 years since he first ran in 2016. We certainly knew it in 2020, and we sure as hell knew it in the aftermath of the 2020 campaign, exactly who he is. But he and JD Vance and their surrogates, they're saying, oh, well, this was a comedian and we didn't. It wasn't a comedian. He told the jokes because they were welcomed there, and they vetted the jokes and they approved them all. And whether it's funny or not, like I think people have to have a sense of humor. If you're going to have a comedian, you better be prepared to be offended as much as amused, because if you don't like it, don't go see the comedian, right? But this wasn't a comedy show. This was his statement to the American people. This was one of his closing rallies. This was how he was promising to lead this nation. And he was promising to do it in the darkest of racism, the darkest of misogyny, the darkest of xenophobia, the darkest of fascism. And he made it abundantly clear. And anybody who voted for Donald Trump this time, I understand 2016, and I might even understand 2020 because it was before January 6th. I'll put those aside for the sake of argument. But in 2024, everybody knows who he is. And if you voted for him, you got a problem, Joe.
Right. Doug John Macedo from Fubar Studios, he says, he obviously hasn't been paying attention to the news. He says, what facts do you have that he approved it? The joke was approved behind the scenes by his people. At the end of the day, he should have fired his campaign manager, number one. Joe Rogan met with Tony Hinchcliffe, and when Tony told him and they were vetting the jokes, he told Tony, don't say that joke. That's not the joke to say. And Tony went ahead and said it. Joe Rogan admitted that joke was vetted by Trump's people. And I felt like if Trump plays this, I don't know, Trump should have fired his campaign manager. If he felt that this, but he didn't. They went on and did this whole thing with the garbage truck. They played off it, and that just added to the whole thing. But this, as you talk about the closing arguments, let's get into the closing arguments, because I feel like Kamala has stooped to a little bit of a low, trying to compete with these MAGA things that are going on. Last week I kind of said something about Kamala because she went to Stevie Wonder's church and she had this thing about this whole promotion about souls to the polls. And I felt like I was torn because I'm like, I'm a big guy, you know, church and state should be separate. I felt cringy seeing her say souls to the polls, and somebody said to me, yeah, but the stakes are really high this time, and they got to pull out all the stops. Today, she comes out and she says she's going to legalize recreational marijuana. Well, if you've been paying attention, you've been watching the booth, and you know this show, the legalization of recreational marijuana is at the two of the final steps at the Senate. So she's not going to legalize anything. She's just going to sign it because if she does get elected, it's going to end up being approved by the state and Senate, the Senate and Congress under her watch, and she's just going to simply sign what they've approved. This is just pandering to a base. So I'm torn. I'm torn on the pandering. I get it that, you know, the stakes are so high tonight. I don't know, your thoughts, guys, on the, you know, I know you were just about to get into this pandering and stuff, R-Squared.
Well, since I just said something, I'll say this real quick about her. First of all, she's not a good candidate. She shouldn't have been the nominee, but she didn't, you know, there wasn't a primary, which she never would have won the primary. So put all that aside. That's history. We can't control that, right? Joe Biden stepped down when he did. He needed to step down. She was the VP. She succeeded the nomination. The party accepted it, right? And she was bouncing in the polls at first, so it wasn't that bad of a situation. The problem is she's proven to be a bad candidate like she was in 2020. She's not a good candidate, certainly not for the national stage. But here's the point. On her worst day, she's better than Trump on his best. She's not a fascist. She's not a racist. She's not a xenophobe. She's going to work with our allies. She's going to do things that she believes is in the best interest of the nation. And I don't agree with her on everything, but I trust her. She's not going to hurt me. She's not going to hurt the American people, even if I disagree with her on something. I can trust her. I can't trust Donald Trump. That's the closing argument. Donald Trump has proven exactly what he is, which is literally a piece of garbage. Donald Trump is human filth, incapable of leadership, incapable of governing because he only acts for himself. He's going to do another tax cut for his billionaire friends. Why do you think Elon Musk is licking Donald Trump's butthole every day? Why do you think why do you think Bezos is hanging around with Trump? These people are licking their lips at what he's going to do for them. What is he going to do for the rest of us? Zero.
And I pointed that out. I said to people, I said, you all, it's crazy because in one hand, Trump is up there and he's saying that he's going to eliminate EVs and drill, baby, drill. And I said, no, he's not. If you all believe that, he's not. Elon Musk is an elitist. He is to Trump to what the guys are to Putin. He's no different, except he's in the forefront. When he got up there and he bragged about being Dark MAGA, I didn't find that funny. Dark MAGA is the silent majority, that militia, racist majority. We all know that, and I didn't like that. Elon Musk is the guy that's going to bet. If you think Elon Musk is giving all of this money to the Trump campaign and he's not going to get nothing in return, you're out of your mind. He's going to get a cabinet seat, number one, and then, yes, he's going to help. And Trump talks about all these tariffs and eliminating all these programs. You know what he's going to do? He's going to eliminate all the programs and put tariffs on all of the competition of EVs and put Tesla back at the top, because Tesla's had to drop the price because they've been feeling the heat with the competition of all the EVs that you see on the street. Hyundai, Kia, all these EVs. Trump gets in there, guess what he's going to do? He's going to remove all the tax benefits for all these companies that have been able to keep and catch up, and then it's going to make Tesla back to being that top EV, and guess what he's going to do? He's going to give Elon Musk a cabinet position, and then you're all going to say to yourselves, wow, how did he get that? How did he get it? He bought and paid for it with that $1 million lottery that he did. Doug says in the chat, you must think it's okay for guys to change in women's bathroom. Oh, you're talking. So let me just get into this, and I can speak on this because my dad was a superintendent at the MBTA. Back in late 80s, early 90s, my dad had a guy take 4 weeks vacation. When the guy came back from 4 weeks vacation, he had a lawyer with him. And the lawyer came in with this guy who now had long hair, long fingernails, and said, this guy is no longer this. His legal name is this, and he will be referred to as this, and this is what this person will be. My dad had told me that this guy had to live 1 year with his external plumbing until he decided if he wanted to make that change. For that 1 year, the men did not want this guy in the men's room at the MBTA. The women didn't want this guy in the men's room, in the ladies' room during his transition period. My dad called downtown. He called the legal department. Guess what the legal department said? This is new. We've never dealt with this before. We don't know how to deal with this. They kind of left my dad to make up the decisions. So my dad hired and rented a trailer and put a trailer on the property for this guy to be able to change and do this. So there's a law out there. If you still have your external plumbing, you're still a man until you get that operation. Once you get that operation, you're a woman. And the funny thing is 20 something plus years down the line, the Boston Herald tried to hang my dad out to dry because my dad's name was on purchasing or renting this trailer for this transgender to be able to get trained without affecting the male employees and the female employees. So there's laws out there in regards to guys who are changing in women's. That has nothing, Doug, that has nothing to do with Trump. That has nothing to do with Harris. It has nothing to do with Tim Walz. There are rules that transgenders are supposed to abide by. Go ahead, R Squared. In this state.
I know Ken needs to get into this, but let me make one point because it does have everything to do with Trump. He put on that disgusting commercial about the clown show of transgender people. Everybody has seen that commercial. It's horrendous, right? Talking about Kamala Harris supported, transgender surgeries and whatever. That was the Trump administration. Get online and read it. In 2018, who was president? Donald Trump. What White House signed the law, the policy that paid for sex change operations for men to become women, women to become men? The Trump administration did. Read it, Doug.
Oh, see? 2018. Wow. So they spun that. Go ahead. Oh, Ken, I can see Ken simmering. Go ahead, Ken.
Okay. Really? With all this going around in the world, this is what you're worried about? How many people? I'm not talking percentage of the population, but how many people have undergone sexual reassignment surgery? Really? How many of them? This is affecting
it's a lot.
Few
it's a lot
people.
Because you have to put it on your driver's license now. That's when you know it's a lot, when it has to be stated.
No, that's wrong. What has happened is the issue has blown up. The amount of people doing this is still incredibly small.
Doug
this
is saying
a non-issue, people.
Doug just said that's bullshit. It came during Obama.
Read it.
No, it didn't.
Read it. It's right there.
No, I know this for a fact, okay? Doug, because you weren't practicing law during the Obama administration, and I was, okay? Because we had this issue in Melrose, okay? The problem was, at the time, during the Obama administration, there were no laws about the use of bathrooms, okay? This is what happened. I know this because this is one of the cases. A number of idiot juvenile boys in high school were going into the girls' restrooms and taking pictures. I believe it's called upskirting.
Oh. Hold on. Let me just
they
jump
were
in
prosecuted.
here. Hold on. Let me just jump in here. Election fact check. Trump administration was the first to sign off on sex change surgeries for transgender prisoners, even though they are spinning it as if she was the one who did it. It's right here. All you have to do is search it. The New York Times has it. The Telegraph, ABC News.
Yeah. Bob's right.
Yep. VerifyThis.com.
Let me get back to the point.
Yep, go ahead.
There was nothing in Massachusetts that forbid boys from going to girls' rooms and taking photographs of them. There were no laws about this because no one ever thought of doing it. Now, the only way they got hooked was if the woman was under 16, it was deemed to be child pornography. But other than that, there were no laws about a male walking into a female's bathroom. Okay? And that was during the Obama administration. I know that because we had criminal cases dealing with that. and then the old what they now call upskirting. There are now laws today. There are, but back then there weren't. No one thought about doing it. No, people are stupid.
What do you think about the closing arguments, Ken?
I'm sorry?
We didn't get your take on the closing arguments. We skipped you.
Oh, that's right. Yes.
Well, you didn't need to skip me because I happen to agree. Let's try this again in English, Ken. I happen to believe what Robert said was absolutely correct, and the only thing I could do would parrot his response. He said it much more eloquently than I ever could. I'll go with that.
Wow, that's fast. Oh, Jesus! Looks like the lawyers have got gotten. Dennis Donahue said not in mass, but I'm not sure what part he's talking about when he said not in mass. Doug John Macedo says take your head out of your ass, but I just dropped a link in there that says Donald Trump is the one who signed it into play for prisoners. And verify.com. I put that in there. So verify.com is and I understand Doug had an issue with a guy going into a women's bathroom. Again, that falls under the responsibility of the guy. The guy knows what he's supposed to use and what he's not supposed to use. If he's going through transition, that's a distinction here in Massachusetts that they've set. Every state is different. I know here in Mass, you still have external plumbing. You're supposed to use them in. And I don't think that's changed since it's been out there. And can guys go with their external plumbing for longer than a year? Yes, because most of these people who go for these gender changing operations, they're seeing a mental health advocate. It's just like weight loss surgery. You need a mental health advocate for that. Dennis Donahue says, who will stop him or her? The issue. So here's the issue here, and it bothers me because my brother is gay. We have a group of people out here who seem to think that a gay man is a threat to a child because they want to think that gay men are pedophiles. And I just got to let you guys know this real quick before I get angry. There's really no reason to be afraid. It's a gay man going through transition. There's no reason to be afraid. The reason why you're afraid is because they've lumped this whole pedophile narrative in with the gay narrative, which is completely wrong of the fucking MAGA nitwits. And the reason why I'm mad about that is because my brother is gay. And he fucking hears it all the fucking time about gay men being pedophiles. Pedophilia and homosexuality are two fucking different things. So you nitwits out there who want to lump these two together, get your fucking education right. Do your fucking homework. Pedophilia and homosexuality are two fucking different things. If a man decides to become a woman and he's going through the transgender period and he wants to use the women's bathroom, if he doesn't put his hands on your child or put his hands on you, there is nothing there. There is no fear there. The fear is in your fucking heads because the narrative placed it in your fucking heads for the last fucking 4 years. And again, I'm sorry for swearing, but my brother, and everybody knows my brother, who is gay, he goes through this bullshit of fucking people who think that pedophilia and homosexuality are both the same. They're not. They're not fucking the same. And here's the thing. All you religious, creepy fucking nuts out there, pedophilia is what was in the Catholic fucking churches when they were molesting kids at young ages. That's pedophilia. That's not homosexuality. So get it right. Get it right. All right? When the Vatican flew the Pope out of here in the middle of the night like a gangster to hide all the fucking abuses that was going on in the Catholic Church, those weren't gay men. Those were pedophiles. And the church tried to hide it. It's two different things. And I'm sorry, guys. Sorry.
Yeah. What else is new?
And that's why this narrative and why Donald Trump can't be president. This is why, because the narrative is so dangerous. When you combine narratives and people believe these narratives and believe that people are threats. Drag queens have been around for ages. Anybody remember Madam, the puppet, and the guy that controlled her years ago? We were all kids back then, and we saw Madam, and they did drag. So,
look,
it is what
I
it is.
grew up watching. I grew up watching, as you did, and Rob did, Bugs Bunny cartoons, and at least once every episode, Bugs Bunny would dress up as a woman, and we thought it was hysterical.
Flip Wilson, Geraldine, one of the most classic TV characters in history. Geraldine, Flip Wilson. Milton Berle, right?
Yeah, Milton Berle, which was known as Mr. Tuesday Night, used to dress up in drag all the time. That was his shtick, and everyone thought it was hysterical. Look, you may not realize this, but in the Navy, there is a long tradition of sailors dressing up in drag when the first time they cross the equator. If you don't believe me, ask anybody who's ever served in the Blue Water Navy.
Isn't it something similar?
Ceremony or something like that.
Yeah, it's similar to the Hasty Pudding Parade, right?
Right.
Sorry, guys. There's people in the chat. I'm pretty sure they're like, "Holy Christ!" But it hits home. It hits home. My brother. It hits home. So
I've seen
MASH.
drag shows.
Somebody said MASH Klinger. MASH Klinger.
Right.
Television. Yep.
Right. Yeah, we watched that growing up. Everyone thought that was hysterical. That was one of the best characters out there.
So again, I know everybody who's watching the show in the chat. I know I got pissed there. Sorry, guys. Sorry about that one. So 8:03. Thank you guys for tuning in. Your thoughts before we close out here. I think that is. Oh no. There is one last topic here. We talked about Vance and the normal gay guy vote when people are saying that Vance is gay, and the microphone thing. I'm a DJ. I felt like that was kind of a false narrative because it was about the microphone being out. But the last topic we're going to talk about at 8:04. I'm going to let these guys get into it. My guys. All right, Barbara Gale. Barbara Gale is in the chat. Barbara Schwartz, who had wished thanks to her fellow Jewish colleagues here on the show, saying hello. She's actually in the chat. Let's talk about this story in Israel and where you guys might think this is headed. The defense minister for Israel, Minister Gallant, has been fired by Netanyahu, and I always butcher that name. I'm going to talk with R Squared first.
Close.
I'm going to talk with R Squared. He's the military guy. He's got knowledge of this type of stuff that goes on. What are your thoughts on the firing of this defense minister?
I mean, obviously, there's a lot that's going on internally that we may not know about. Externally, from what we know, there was obviously an ongoing dispute between the defense minister and Netanyahu. The defense minister, on behalf of the military, has become more vocal in his objections to Netanyahu's policy and some of the unreasonable actions of this coalition government. And so, the normal thing to do, I mean, I don't support what Netanyahu is doing in this regard, but the normal thing to do is you fire somebody who's not in line with your policies and you get somebody else. And that's what happens. And that's the dysfunction of the Israeli government, with this, these thin coalitions of bringing in extremist parties to get a majority in the Knesset to be able to form the government. And this is the product of that decent people, moderate people, mainstream people are going to get pushed out, especially when they stand up for things, and they're going to be replaced with the extremists because that's who runs the government. Because if you don't cater to them, they back out and you lose power. So it's a huge flaw. It's very complicated, but this is evidence of why their system is weak. As far as they're a democracy, but their parliamentary system is weak because of the fractioned parties, and this is an unfortunate product of it. I mean, for people watching this, they think it's about Gaza. It is. It's about a lot more than that, and we'll have to see who comes in next. But I think it's obviously going to be a hardliner. So stay tuned.
Ken?
We could do an entire series of shows on Israeli politics and government. Yep. Let me just try to be very clear. The Israeli cabinet are all elected members of the Knesset or the parliament. They oftentimes have their own agendas and their own ambitions. It isn't like the United States government. It's a parliamentary democracy, and it's not very, and especially with Israelis, it's never been working well. It's thought that the Minister of Defense wants to be prime minister. Probably does. I don't doubt it. Looking to supplant Netanyahu. Please remember, Netanyahu has been convicted of several crimes, and before the October 7th incident, they all thought he was going to have to step down. And I think there's a lot of calls for him to step down during the crisis because they feel he's mishandled it. I'll get into why later. There's also another huge issue. He tried packing the Israeli Supreme Court a couple of years ago. The army, well, I shouldn't say the IDF, the Israeli Defense Forces, but it's one uniform service, revolted. I mean, and you can't be an elected official and piss off the IDF. You just can't. It's just nothing you can do. So I think the IDF feels they're being used improperly, for many reasons, and this is what you're seeing. But as Rob, as usual, pointed out correctly, there is a whole mess of things going on beyond the scenes which we do not know about. Unfortunately, I don't speak Hebrew well enough to read some of the Hebrew-based newspapers. I have to read the Jerusalem Post and the other ones, and I think I'm losing something in translation. The few people I know in Israel, relatives of mine, are very angry with Netanyahu for many reasons. Some of them feel he hasn't gone far enough. Some of them feel he's gone too far. Some of them feels that we spent all this capital and money and have nothing to show for it because there are hostages still being held. And that's the issue that is front and center for the Israelis right now, is not invading southern Lebanon, not invading Gaza, but getting the hostages back or getting the remains back. And they feel Netanyahu has utterly, completely failed on that issue. What he could have done differently, I don't know. In the vein of full disclosure, I can't stand Netanyahu. I think he's Trump with a brain, to be perfectly honest with you. And the faster he goes to jail and gets out of Israeli politics, the better I'll sleep at night.
Wow. Good stuff. Good stuff. Barbara Gale still watching. Christopher Gagney says, don't apologize, Nabra. I dropped in there, just said sorry for everyone. But good stuff. I got to thank everybody for tuning into the show. These are all the people who support the show. Let me get this up here, the outro banners. All the hats and beanies that have been supported. I have t-shirts. I do have t-shirts. I'm going to be posting the t-shirts on the booth page. I'm going to post the shirts that become available on the booth page. So if you want a shirt, I'm actually giving them away for free because I'm just learning how to use the Cricut. So I don't want to give away crappy stuff and make people buy it. Those are the shows I produce. Tonight at 9:30, Turnbuckle Spilt Liquor Podcast. That's at 9:30. We have Sheldon Goldberg on the show tonight. He is a legend here in Massachusetts. November 8th, the Culture Corner is hosting an event on November 8th at the Starlight in Hamilton, Southbridge. Shy Elemental is going to be there. November 8th also is a musical showcase giving thanks to the sounds or for the sounds with Music Man. That's going to take place in Fall River. And then again, as I mentioned on the show, Matty C from Matty C Sports, he's actually running in the Boston BAA half, which is this weekend. I'm really, really pushing and trying to get Matty to run the Boston Marathon next year. Thanksgiving dinner, Thursday, November 28th, will take place at the Winthrop Congregational Church in Holbrook. Brockton is still throwing their holiday celebration on the 30th. And this Monday is Veterans Day. And I got to let everybody know that Travis, once again, will be on C-SPAN this Veterans Day. Big announcement. This will be our third time on C-SPAN. December 13th, Ugly Sweater Party. And then we've got the toy giveaway on December 14th for the African American Association of Brockton, 12 to 4. Bring your toys. And Barbara Schwartz, who's in the chat, free warrior yoga for veterans and first responders. The series takes place November 23rd to December 16th. Please reach out to her now. Brockton Public Schools is also doing a winter coat donation for the kids. Please donate your coats to the link above. And once they get to 1,500 coats, that's down. So there's really no date. Bat buses are free till December 31st to the end of this year. So please, 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 please take advantage of that. And then my artist, Vianna Marie, is nominated for an award. Remy TV, Best Female Hip Hop. That award ceremony takes place in April. And that is it, ladies and gentlemen. So before we get out of here, start off with Ken Diesel down below for his goodbyes.
Well, first of all, I'd like to thank all of our viewers and listeners, all 12 of you. I wish everyone happy and safe Thanksgiving, which is coming up in a couple of weeks. I can't believe that I'm saying that. Guys, gals, others, be safe, enjoy your family members, but just please, please, please don't drink all that much. And above all, stay away from open fires. That causes problems, believe it or not. I will elaborate next month on that.
Chris Gagney just dropped in the chat for you guys. Love First Tuesdays. Chris, if you get a chance, please check out the Corridor. These guys put product over there on the Corridor. Well, actually, let's be honest here.
It's Rob who does it. Right. Yes. That's our Square's baby.
Puts articles on the Corridor. Ken just loans his back out so Rob can be carried on the Corridor.
That's right. Stay safe, stay informed. We'll see you in the beginning of December.
And I'm expecting Rob to have something after this election's won. I'm expecting something on the Corridor. Squid, you can say your goodbyes now.
Yeah, thanks everybody for tuning in. It's a big night. It's going to be a big few days. Be patient, be calm, be smart, and we'll see you in a few weeks. Enjoy your holidays.
Yeah, this election, we won't know for a few days. I don't care who you voted for, but act right. Act right. That's all I got to say. We don't need another January 6th. No matter who you voted for, whatever the results are, act right. 4 more years, and then you can vote again. That's about it. Thank you, everybody, for tuning in the show. I want to apologize once again. I have no idea why Joopy is all over me. She probably heard me fired up. But hey, 9:30, Spilt Liquor, Turnbuckles and Spilt Liquor podcast. Boy Sinista1, thank you for tuning in the show. We'll be back here next week. Wow. We've got one more First Tuesday left, guys. That's it, December. That's it for the year. Easy. I can't believe it. So, all right, guys, we're gonna get ready out of here. SpongeBob, do me a favor, take us home.
Well, see you next Tuesday.
Thank you for listening to The Booth on Hoobazoo and HatcherRadio.com. Please follow the Facebook page and subscribe to the podcast at Apple Podcast, iHeartRadio, and Spotify. The Booth is a Sinista1 production hosted by Sinista1.
I've got to start hanging out with friends that are a little more intelligent and understand politics and stuff. It's just that I'm up on this level up here, and all my friends are down here. Me, nah. You guys, nah. Maybe a little more down in here. Screw you guys, I'm going home.
I smoke, I drink, I do my thing. These bitches hating, so you know I got to make it plain. Don't do cocaine, but your chick, my main. We stick together, true forever, yeah, you know we bang. I miss those days, which was easy. If only I made it, keep this shit on repeat. Now that I done upgraded, I've been upstate, and y'all think I'm playing. And I got a hit now for these weak ass hoes who think I ain't slaying. Try me, and I'll probably end up laughing, cause I never back down. I'm that chick with a clean ass whip, I don't need that shit, it's like I'm my own now. I get hurt, I get tired of fussing, fighting, guess I gotta crack down. Don't mess with me, cause on everything, I'ma have to bring the whole city out.
WHOOBAZOO, that's Hoobazoo.com.
Enter website, enter website, enter website, enter website.